I'm in a very joyful and punny mood, so I am using the Grate Mom die set by Pixie Dust Designs, which also comes with this cool stamp. And I love how they combined all of the eye pieces and arms and legs together for easier die cutting. I already die cut all of the pieces out of white cardstock, which means we're going to be doing some ink blending. But first, I'm going to use my Swiss cheese 3D embossing folder by Sizzix. I love this embossing folder. And what a perfect embossing folder to use for this card. So I'm first going to take a piece of teal colored cardstock that I pulled out of a scrapbook.com paper pad. I'm going to mist that with some water, put that into the embossing folder, and then I'm going to run it through my Spellbinder Platinum 6. Now, the reason I spritzed it with some water is to just kind of help prevent some cracking. And when I run it through and pull it out of the embossing folder, I have no cracking and I'm left with all of this wonderful like dimension and layers within this card panel because that's what the embossing folder creates. I absolutely love it. And I'm taking some pearlescent paste, putting that onto my glass surface, and then I'm just going to gently rub it over the top of some of the areas of the Swiss cheese embossed design that is on this panel. I did not want it to be the whole thing, and it really does just add a little bit of shine, as you can see here. So I'm not covering all of it. I'm being haphazardly strategic. If you can be haphazardly strategic, then that is me. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just deciding here's where I want to put some here, here's where I want to put some there. And then that's what I'm doing. And I'm just kind of rubbing that all over. And I really do love the shine. I decided to step it up with some bleed proof white paint though. And I like this because it does not bleed through. So if I'm going to do any inking or have any inking, I can go ahead and I can basically ink, splatter it, and then this paint will not pick up any of that color from my ink. So I put a little bit of that from the jars. You could see the texture and consistency of that was pretty thick. So I put that onto my glass surface, add in some water, and then I'm just using really, I think this is supposed to be meant for alcohol splattering, but I'm using this kind of splatter brush to splatter the white paint onto my card panel. And then there you can kind of see what that looks like with the bit of the shimmer and then of course the paint. I wanted a bit more though. I wanted some more coverage. I knew that I was going to be covering certain areas, but I'm not, again, I'm only haphazardly strategic. So I'm not fully strategic with my card designs until I'm really in them. So I wanted to make sure I had a bunch of paint. And then I pulled out different inks that I have as cubes. Some of them are from Concord and Ninth, and then some of them are from Altenew. This first color is a Concord and Ninth color, and it's kind of this light pink color called watermelon. And I love this color. It can be light. You can make it, of course, darker if you want, just by building up that ink. But I'm going to tell you, I like the way that the ink just blends on. And then, of course, it does soften a little bit. So I use the watermelon on that first layer, and then I'm going to come in, and this is another concordonite color called Wildberry, and this is a very vibrant color. I'm not doing a ton of like ink blending that's making it smooth. I don't mind the variation in intensity of color on either of these pieces. And that dark pink one is gonna be the background for that lighter pink color. So, keeping that in mind, it's not gonna look so blotchy. I then come in with my waffle flower brush here, and I'm taking the ink, which is an Altenew green called Grass Field, and this is going to make the handles of our cheese grater green. I know that there probably are not a lot of green cheese grater handles out there, but I decided to have a pink cheese grater with green handles. And then I'm going to pull out the last color that I have up there, which is an Altenew gray color called Cloudy Sky. It's kind of got a little bluish tinge to it. Um, but I really like the color. I actually find that I gravitate to that Cloudy Sky quite a bit. I'm going to put all of my pieces aside. I really want them to dry and the dye ink to really kind of settle and soften, but I need to go ahead and put them aside so all of that can happen, and then we can get to inking all of our other little pieces that are over there in my tray. But I have an idea. So, what I decided to do was pull out my Astro Paste, which is from Simon Hurley, and it has some glitter in it. And this is a silver, so it's going to really highlight the gray, but add some more shine and shimmer, which you know I absolutely love. So, using multiple products and pulling from the stash, and look at that shine and shimmer. Love it. And it dries really quick. I pulled out some additional Altenew inks, and I'm going to use the buttercream color, which is this lighter color, and that is going to go on the overlaying piece. That is the one that has this holes, and it really does provide this nice soft yellow. And of course, you can build that up, but I really wanted this to be a soft yellow because I'm going to go in with the warm sunshine color, which definitely is more vibrant and it's going to peek through a bit more. I love this color, warm sunshine. Oh, a beautiful name, beautiful color. And then I'm going to come in with my Concord and Ninth color. And this is an orange color called creamsicle. And it really does remind me of a creamsicle, if anybody remembers those. And I'm going to use this just on this edge piece that will lay in on the side. So it adds some dimension and makes the slice of cheese look like you're kind of facing, kind of like it's facing the side or turned a little bit from you. And then I put a little bit of that just around the edges of the piece that's going to lay on top of that bright yellow. And we are pulling out all the stops today because I'm pulling out my alcohol markers by Olo. And you can see here how the arms and the legs are slightly different. So the cheese grater versus the cheese slice is going to have the larger arms and legs. And then, of course, the shorter are going to be for the little cheese slice because we are kind of making a Mama's Day card here, though. Shh, don't tell my crafty mama. She may get this card after all. I digress. So, anywho, I am taking for the larger arms and legs, I'm taking one of my pairing of Olo alcohol markers here, and I'm just going along the edges of my pieces. And I do this with the smaller set as well. And I did think about this from a standpoint of the fact that the cheese has orange. So I used a more orange color on the mama's arms and legs because, well, that's the way my brain thought from a hereditary standpoint. Then there would be a bit of orange in the cheese slice, right? That's a little insight to how I pick things and what I do. But I'm taking this. I digress again. Oh my goodness. Get it together, Jamie. All right. So I'm taking the darker of the two colors and I'm going around the edge where it would be on the inside of the legs and arms, and of course the bottoms of the feet and kind of the little hand area. And then I'm doing the lighter color and flicking out from that darker color to blend the two colors together. That's how I approached the arms and the legs. And this was really simple. It definitely was hard to hold on to the little pieces, and I couldn't use my sticky mat because you don't want to use alcohol or alcohol markers on your sticky mat. Trust me. Ask me how I know. Ask me. Anyway. So once that is done and I have all of my pieces dried, we can begin our actual like card making and layering process. So I have my precision glue press here, which is by Sweet Petunia, and a pair of tweezers, carefully trying to not get tons of glue that's going to squish out between the dots. And I'm gluing that up, and then I'm going to lay that onto the pink piece and see what I mean. The blending kind of being just a little all over. You can't tell that. You can't tell the blotchiness of the piece that's behind the actual graded whole piece. And it really adds that nice little contrast of the dark against the lighter. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the glue to put the green handles on each of my cheese graters here. And I'm doing two. So I'm doing two of the cheese graters, and then I'm doing two of the cheeses, and you will see why. So just bear with me with the card design because it will all come together, and then you're going to go, "Whoa, I love it." Once I have the handles of my cheese graters on, I can then put those fun pieces that kind of are that lip of the front of the cheese grater, and I can put those on just using, the same liquid adhesive. Nothing special, just liquid adhesive. It'll go right on. But I do love the color combination here and the contrast. I love the green with kind of the different pinks, and then adding that strip of the gray that is also shiny and has that glitter from the Astro Paste. It really does kind of just become cohesive, and it really looks good together. And then I do the same thing with my cheese slice. So I'm going to just take the glue, put some on the back of that top layer, and then I'm going to overlay that onto the backing layer that has that brighter yellow. And you can still see that brighter yellow popping through the holes of our cheese slice. So I'm going to do this with both of those. Oh, Bubbies. Holden says hi, y'all. Holden says hi. So then we have here this other piece, which is, like I said, kind of the side. So you can see on this piece here, I just showed it very briefly, but you can see where that line kind of indents. So when you die cut it, it does show that kind of embossed line. So you know exactly where to put this piece. And then I'm just laying that in that little piece right up to that line, and it you can see how it makes it look like your cheese slice is a little bit turned. Then we need to put on the arms and the legs. So I started this thinking, okay, let me put on the arms of my cheese first because it's going to be shorter. But I wanted them to kind of be lined up a little bit so I would then know once my arms are on the cheese how I would need to position the arms for the cheese grater because they're going to be holding hands. So I'm putting them next to each other, and then I can take the arms. As you can see, they're a bit more orange to, match the orange of the cheese. Anyway, again, I digress. I'm just like amazed at this thought process that I had. Don't know why I'm so amazed by it, but I am. Anyway, I take the arm and I'm going to go ahead and kind of put them hand to hand. They're not glued down. I'm just putting them kind of hand to hand so I know exactly where to put the arm on my cheese grater mama. So there you go. And then I go ahead and position the other side. Now, I thought that this was a pretty brilliant way to tackle this. One that I think my mom would even be proud of. So, again, this is all about Mother's Day. So, let's talk more about my mom. I know I always mention her, but let's talk more about her. She's phenomenal and she's really great with her approach on how to make things easy. So, why, when it comes to the legs, I didn't do the same thing as I did with the arms is beyond me. She would be very proud of how I approach the arms. I know this. But the legs, I'm just like putting them on. I didn't even stop to think about uh I guess, where I was going to go with this, and if they're standing next to each other, I would need to adjust then the legs of I don't know, one or the other. The problem was I started the legs, and I didn't realize this till after I was already going, but I started the legs with the mom. And I should have started again, I should have started with the shorter of the pieces, which would have been my cheese. So here you can kind of see I'm trying to line them up, but then it makes it look like my little cheese slice actually has longer legs than the cheese grater piece, which is supposed to be the mom. I know, I know. Moms can be shorter, moms can be taller, all shapes, sizes, and we love them all, right? Once those pieces are together, I need to get my eyes positioned. And you know, I love the pixie dust design sparkly eyes, but I decided to step it up with some more sparkle. I took my Stella and Wink glimmer brush marker. I don't know. It's a shimmery, glittery, iridescent. I don't even know what if it's got a color that's called. Beats me. Anyway, I just put that onto what is the whites of the eyes. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take that black piece, put some of the liquid adhesive on it, and then I'm going to lay that on top of the white piece that I just did the shimmer brush marker on. We know, you've heard me say this a gazillion times. I'm not really great at lining up these little pieces. I don't know if it's my fat thumbs and fingers. I don't know if my eyes just don't catch the slight differences in the roundness because these are not completely round pieces. So I don't know if I just don't catch that with my vision. I'm really blind, but I am wearing glasses most of the time, readers, to have some magnification with these, but I still just can't tell. So then once I get the pieces on, I'm always seeing this little bit of white. So I pull out my Faber-Castell or Faber-Castell black kind of brush marker, and I'm going around the edges. Any of the bits around the edge that are white, I'm making sure that that is covered up. Now, you don't have to just do this if you mess things up like me, where you can't align them and fix them on properly. You can do this just to make a nice, clean edge to these pieces. So from the side, you would see no white. It would just look like the black from the cardstock. And I really like that. I like the clean look that this gives. So maybe consider doing this the next time you have eyes that are die cut and you need to have that finished edge for, or even if it's just a sentiment, right? Like a word sentiment or something along that line, or another type of die cut piece like a flower or a stem. Take a different color marker and go around that white and finish it off. It really does, I think, make a difference and make things look really clean. I'm then going to take my pieces, my eyes and mouth pieces, and I'm going to place them where I think I want them to be on my cheese grater. So this is the mama cheese grater here. The other one is the child cheese slice. So mama cheese grater here needs to have her smile, exactly where she wants it because she's happy it's Mother's Day. She's being celebrated. And then of course I want her eyes to be placed right, which, is pretty hard for me. But once I have them placed where I want them, I'm going to go ahead, just pick it up with the wax tip of my little tool here, which is a tool that I got from scrapbook.com. And it's got a pokey end, it's got the wax tip end, it's got another little scrapey end, and then it's got, I think even it's for diamond painting and to pick up the little diamonds, but it's got that end as well. It's a very useful tool. So I go ahead and I just put a little dabs of glue and then I put my pieces down. Now I found it a little harder for the cheese slice here because I'm working with a smaller space and I wanted the positioning to be pretty accurate. So what I decided to do was look at the packaging. Yes, Jamie turned over the packaging and looked at the picture that came with this set so I could make sure I was really truly lining them up right, especially since our cheese slice appears to be kind of turning a little bit towards Mama Cheese Grater. So that is my little quote unquote pro tip for you. Look at the packaging. They've already got it all lined out. Just look at it. It makes it much easier when you're trying to figure out spacing for these little elements. Next, I'm going to work on the stamp. So I've already put the stamp into my MISTI and a piece of scrap cardstock that I'm going to use. I'm going to ink this up with my Altenew Obsidian black ink, which you know is my tried and true, my go-to black ink. I love how crisp this ink is. And then once I've got it really good and stamped, I'm going to cover it with clear embossing powder, and then I'm going to set this using my Wow tool, heat tool. And this tool has two different settings. So there's one setting which is great for just drying, and then the second setting, which is really used to melt the embossing powder. And you can just watch here on the screen how all of that just melts beautifully. Once I have that, nice and completed and it looks exactly the way I want it, I'm actually going to split the sentiment up. So I'm cut it right down the middle because I want the Great Mom to actually go somewhere else. And then for this piece, I need to trim up the top. So I pull out a scrap piece of cardstock that I have a little bit of mint tape on, and it acts as a little arm so that I can push the piece of the sentiment exactly where I want it and just keep trimming slivers off until it's exactly, even. That's my other little pro tip for you. Create you a nice little arm. So putting together our actual card, I have a top folding landscape card base, and that is what we're actually going to put our panels on. But I first want to take my teal piece of cardstock that we did our embossing on and all of our fun shimmer with the paste, pearlescent paste, and I want to go ahead and I want to map that onto this black piece of cardstock. Thought that this would honestly bring out a little more of the eyes and, of course, the sentiment, just because there wasn't anything else that was really black. And I didn't want it to get lost. And I thought this is really going to kind of create a nice cohesive look. So I mapped that onto the black piece of cardstock. And then I'm going to look at where my big mom is going to go on the side and make sure that my sentiment isn't going to be encroaching on that too much. I'm then going to use my liquid adhesive again, and I'm going to go ahead and affix my, nice cheese grater mama over there onto the right side. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the same thing with the cheese slice. So the cheese slice child is, of course, going to come in and be holding the hand of cheese grater mama. So I'm going to make sure that when I put my glue onto the back of this, that I'm also having a little dot of glue to where those hands are going to be, because remember, they are holding hands in our nice little Mother's Day card, cheese grater and cheese scene. And so I'm just going to go ahead and overlap them and then put their hands gently touching. And here's where you can kind of see the cheese slice legs. They're just, things just aren't really quite lined up for them to be standing next to each other, but it's a slight thing that we're not worrying about. No one's probably going to notice it, and we're not about perfection here. Since I split my sentiment and half of it is going to go on the outside, I did put a little dot 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 so that we could continue, knowing that the sentiment is going to finish out on the inside of a card. Taking my trusty, really, really old from my stash rectangle foam adhesive, and I'm putting that on the back of the sentiment, and then I'm going to put that onto my card. Now I'm putting it up into the top kind of left there. That's going to fill that space. But when I put the sentiment on there and you see it actually go down, let me just tell you that it really looks good. Like, I'm gonna say that it really kind of does exactly what I wanted it to, by bringing kind of more of the black in, from the faces of the little elements that we have, the cheese grater and cheese slice. How many times can I say cheese grater and cheese slice in this video? I don't know. Anyway, that's that. But I felt it needed a little extra. So, of course, you know me, I'm going to pull from my stash, and I found this little kind of scallopy thing from something else that I had done another project on, and I threw it in my nice little, flower stash over there. And I thought this would be really cute to add to that little lip piece of the cheese grater. So I whack that off with my scissors, and I don't know what's going on with me today. Whatever. Anyway, I cut that off with the scissors, and then I found this cute little flower, and I thought it would just be cute having the little cheese, bringing the flower to mom. So that's what I did. And then I put that onto my card base. And see what I mean about the white and the black? That matte really, really worked well. I'm bringing the outside of our card to the inside of our card. Just take another piece of teal cardstock, and if I could get it on there straight as I can, then that'd be nice. And I mat that together, and then our extra little pieces that don't have any faces or arms or legs are brought to the inside as just a nice fun element before I also glue down our Great Mom, which is the end of our sentiment. And you've made it through this entire card creation alongside me. I don't know how you did it. I just don't know. But here's our beautiful card. I love it. Not to be cheesy, but you're a, and then look at all that shine on there. And then you open it up and it says Great Mom. I really love this card. And we used the Great Mom die set that has that fun stamp by Pixie Dust Designs. I used the Swiss cheese embossing folder by Sizzix. This is the pearlescent paste that created that fun pearly shine on the front, and then the Astro paste, of course, that was used on the little cheese grater lip there. I greatly appreciate you joining me for this fun card making session, and I really hope it inspired you to make a card for that mother figure in your life. Be sure to stay tuned for more crafty fun to be had. Thank you for supporting me by subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing this video.